Marcus Wellington stared at his phone with dread. Another text from his mother, "Family dinner Sunday. Bring someone special this time. No excuses. Mom." At 28, Marcus had inherited Wellington Industries, a billion-dollar pharmaceutical company, but he felt trapped by his parents' constant pressure to settle down. Every family gathering became a parade of eligible women his mother invited, hoping one would catch his eye. That's when he got the idea that would change everything. The Manhattan Institute for the Blind was nothing like Marcus expected. The modest building felt warm and welcoming, unlike his sterile corporate world. Sarah Chen, the volunteer coordinator, looked puzzled when he explained his request. "You want to hire someone as a companion for social events?" she asked carefully. "It's completely professional," Marcus insisted. "I just need someone intelligent and well-spoken for family dinners. Good compensation, of course." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "There's Elena Rodriguez. She's 26, works as a translator, and lost her sight in an accident 3 years ago. She's remarkable." When Elena entered the cafe, Marcus was struck by her natural beauty and confident presence. Her long dark hair caught the afternoon light, and despite being blind, she moved with graceful assurance. "Let me understand this," Elena said after he explained his proposal. "You want to pay me to pretend to be your girlfriend because your parents are pressuring you to settle down?" "When you put it like that, it sounds pathetic," Marcus admitted. Elena smiled, transforming her entire face. "It is pathetic, but also refreshingly honest. Most people either treat me like I'm made of glass or completely invisible." "So you'll do it?" "5,000 per event," Marcus offered. Elena's eyebrows shot up. "That's generous." "I have conditions," Elena said. "First, this is purely professional. Second, you treat me as an equal, not someone you're doing a favor. And third, you need to learn how to actually act like you care about someone." "What do you mean?" "If we're convincing your family we're together, you need to be attentive and genuinely interested in another person. From what I can tell, those aren't your strengths." Marcus felt a flash of irritation, then realized she was right. "Deal." For the next hour, Marcus found himself talking more openly than he had in years about his family, the pressure, and his fear that his entire life had been planned before he was old enough to have opinions. Elena listened without judgment. "They love you," she said finally. "What?" "Your parents. They love you and want you to be happy. They're just going about it wrong." As they prepared to leave, Elena stood and unfolded her white cane with practiced efficiency. "Why did you agree to this?" Marcus asked. Elena smiled. "Because, Marcus Wellington, you might be the most lost person I've ever met. And I've always been good at helping people find their way." Sunday evening arrived with crisp October weather. Marcus stood outside Elena's Queen's apartment, more nervous about this fake relationship than any real one he'd had. When Elena emerged wearing the midnight blue dress he'd sent, she looked stunning. "You clean up nicely," she said, somehow sensing his surprise. "How did you know I was staring?" The silence has a different quality when someone's surprised by what they see. The drive to his parents' Greenwich estate took 45 minutes. They refined their story. They'd met at a charity event, had been dating 3 months, and were taking things slowly. The Wellington estate was imposing, designed to communicate wealth rather than comfort. Robert and Victoria Wellington waited in the foyer, their curiosity barely contained. "Mother, Dad, I'd like you to meet Elena Rodriguez," Marcus said. "Mrs. Wellington, Mr. Wellington," Elena said warmly. "Thank you for inviting me to your beautiful home." Victoria took Elena's hand, surprised by her confident grip and direct eye contact. "Please, call me Victoria. We're so pleased to meet you, dear." The dinner exceeded Elena's expectations. Instead of a stiff formal affair, it was filled with genuine laughter and spirited conversation. Marcus's parents were formidable but warm, clearly devoted to their son. What surprised Elena most was Marcus's behavior. Rather than sitting quietly, he asked thoughtful questions about her work, shared anecdotes that showed he'd been listening, and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. "Elena," Robert said during dessert, "I've never seen Marcus this engaged with anyone. Usually we have to drag personal information out of him." Elena felt Marcus take her hand, and the contact sent an unexpected jolt through her. Your son is full of surprises. When Elena excused herself, Victoria immediately cornered Marcus. That girl is extraordinary, she said urgently. I know, Mom. Do you? Because if you let her get away, you'll regret it forever. Marcus looked toward where Elena had gone. It's complicated. The best things usually are, Robert added. Son, tonight is the first time I've seen you let someone past your walls. In the car afterward, Marcus was unusually quiet. Your parents are wonderful, Elena said. Not what I expected at all. They loved you, Marcus said quietly. My mother told me I'd be an idiot to let you get away. Elena felt something dangerous shift in her chest. Marcus. I know this was fake, he said quickly. But sitting there tonight, watching you with my family, for a few hours, I forgot it wasn't real. It wasn't entirely fake, Elena admitted softly. Your parents are genuinely lovely, and you were different tonight. More yourself. Someone you could what? Marcus asked when she trailed off. Someone I could care about, Elena said. If this were real. At her door, Marcus looked at her in the entrance light. Thank you. You gave me something I didn't know I needed. What's that? A glimpse of who I could be with the right person. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in his office unable to focus on anything. The second event had been a museum gala, the third a family brunch. Each time, Elena had been perfect, charming, intelligent, genuinely engaging. But each time, the $5,000 payment felt more wrong. His phone rang. Marcus, darling. His mother's voice was warm. Dinner party tonight. Elena must be there. After hanging up, Marcus realized he was falling for a woman being paid to pretend to care about him. When he called Elena, his voice was strained. We need to talk. About what? About this arrangement. About what it's become. Marcus struggled with the words. I can't keep paying you to pretend to care about me when I'm starting to care about you for real. Elena felt her carefully constructed walls crumble. Marcus, this is complicated. I know how it sounds. Rich man pays woman to be fake girlfriend and catches feelings. It's pathetic. It's not pathetic, Elena said quickly. We started this for the wrong reasons, but... But what? I haven't been acting either. Somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending to care about you and started actually doing it. That evening, when Marcus arrived with flowers, Elena was wearing a simple black dress that made her more beautiful than any designer gown. No more payments, Marcus said as they walked to his car. If you come tonight, it's because you want to be there with me. And what do we tell your parents? The truth. That we're figuring it out as we go. The dinner party was intimate, and Victoria immediately noticed the change in their dynamic. There was genuine tenderness now, naturalness instead of performance. During the evening, Elena revealed something that shocked Marcus. I never cashed any of the checks. Later, she showed him 3 uncashed checks totaling $15,000. Taking money for real feelings would have made me feel like something I'm not. You are the most genuine person I've ever met, Marcus said, reaching for her hands. That night, Elena invited Marcus to stay, not for anything physical, but to talk until dawn about their hopes, fears, and the future they might build together. You know what's funny? Elena said as morning light filtered through her windows. I thought I was helping you fool your parents, but we actually helped you stop fooling yourself. What do you mean? The man I fell for is exactly who you are when you stop trying to be perfect. I love you, Marcus said, the words coming before he could stop them. Elena touched his face tenderly. I love you too. Epilogue. 6 months later, Marcus proposed at the Manhattan Institute for the Blind, where their story began. Elena said yes through happy tears as the staff applauded. Their wedding was everything their fake relationship had never been, authentic, joyful, surrounded by people who genuinely loved them. Marcus left daily operations of Wellington Industries to focus on philanthropy. Elena started a non-profit providing translation services for immigrant families. Together, they built a real life filled with ordinary moments that were extraordinary because they were shared. I love our real life, Marcus said one Sunday morning as they read together on their couch. Me too, Elena smiled. Though I have to admit, It's much better than anything we could have performed." He'd set out to hire someone to pretend to love him and instead found someone who loved him exactly as he was. It was the best performance of his life, precisely because it hadn't been a performance at all. 5 years later, the Wellington Rodriguez Foundation office was worlds apart from the cold, imposing boardroom where Marcus used to work. Located in the heart of Brooklyn, the space was warm and welcoming, with plants scattered throughout and photographs of families they'd helped covering the walls. Elena sat at her desk, reviewing Braille documents for their new legal translation program, when she heard familiar footsteps approaching. Even after all these years, her heart still quickened when Marcus arrived. "How did the investor meeting go?" she asked, lifting her face as she felt his lips press a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We got the funding," Marcus said, his voice full of pride. $3 million to expand the program to 5 more cities." Elena beamed. "Marcus, that's incredible. It means we can help over 1,000 more families next year." 500 families was your original goal, Marcus reminded her, pulling up a chair beside her. "Now you want to save the entire world." "You taught me to dream big," Elena laughed, intertwining her fingers with his. "Besides, you were the one who said if we were going to do this, we'd do it right." Marcus watched his wife. He still got emotional thinking of her that way, and marveled at the journey that had brought them here. The foundation had started small, just the two of them and Sarah Chen, who had left the institute to join them. Now they were a nationally recognized organization, providing free translation services, legal assistance, and integration programs for immigrant families. "I have a surprise for you," Marcus said, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. Elena tilted her head curiously. "What kind of surprise?" "Remember when you mentioned wanting to expand to Puerto Rico? To help families transitioning to the mainland?" "Of course, but we said that was a project for next year." "Well," Marcus said, placing the envelope in her hands, "I just received confirmation that the Puerto Rican government approved our proposal. They want us to establish offices in San Juan and Ponce." Elena opened the envelope and ran her fingers over the documents, her expression shifting from surprise to pure joy. "Marcus, this means..." "It means we're spending the next 6 months in Puerto Rico, establishing the program and training local teams. And," he paused, smiling, "it means I'll finally get to really know the island where you grew up." Elena stood and hugged her husband tightly, feeling tears of happiness stream down her face. "You're amazing. How did you manage to organize all this without me knowing?" "I had help," Marcus admitted. "Your grandmother was my accomplice. We spent weeks on the phone discussing the best locations for the offices." "Abuela knew." Elena laughed through her tears. "She managed to keep it a secret?" "It was hard for her too. She's so excited to show me around the island and introduce me to all your cousins I haven't met yet." Elena pulled back to cup Marcus's face in her hands. "I love you so much it still takes my breath away sometimes. Even though I used to be the guy who paid you to pretend to care about me? Especially because you became the man brave enough to stop pretending and start living for real." As the afternoon sun streamed through their office windows, casting warm light across their joined hands, Marcus thought about the scared, isolated man he'd been 5 years ago. That version of himself seemed like a stranger now, someone who had been so afraid of being vulnerable that he'd paid for companionship rather than risk genuine connection. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't walked into the institute that day?" he asked. Elena considered this, then shook her head. "No, because I think we would have found each other eventually. Maybe not in the same way, but somehow. People who are meant to be together have a way of finding each other." "You really believe that?" "I believe that you spent your whole life looking for someone who would see the real you and love what they found. And I spent my whole life looking for someone who would value my strength without trying to fix me. We were both searching for the same thing, authentic love. The circumstances that brought us together were just the universe's way of making sure we didn't miss each other." That evening, they walked home to their brownstone in Park Slope, Elena's arm linked through Marcus's as she navigated the familiar sidewalks with confident ease. Their house was everything Marcus's old penthouse hadn't been, filled with warmth, personality, and evidence of a life truly lived. Books in multiple languages, artwork from their travels, photos of family and friends, and the comfortable chaos of two people building something beautiful together. As they prepared dinner together, Marcus chopping vegetables while Elena seasoned their meal, their movements synchronized by years of practice. Elena's phone rang with a FaceTime call from Marcus's parents. "There are our favorite newlyweds." Victoria's voice filled the kitchen, though they'd been married for over 4 years now. "Mom, we're hardly newlyweds anymore," Marcus laughed, angling the phone so both he and Elena were visible. "You'll always be newlyweds to us," Robert chimed in from behind Victoria. "You still look at each other like you can't believe your luck." "That's because we can't," Elena said, smiling at Marcus. "Speaking of luck," Victoria said, her eyes twinkling, "we have news of our own." Marcus and Elena exchanged glances. "What kind of news?" "We're selling the Greenwich house," Robert announced. "We found a lovely place in Westchester, much smaller and more manageable. And—" he paused dramatically, "it's only 20 minutes from you two." "Dad, that's wonderful," Marcus said, genuinely pleased. Over the years, his relationship with his parents had deepened and evolved. They'd stopped trying to control his life and instead had become his biggest supporters and closest friends. "We figured it was time to simplify," Victoria said. "Plus, we want to be closer when grandchildren start arriving." Elena felt her cheeks warm. She and Marcus had been talking about starting a family, but they hadn't shared those conversations with anyone else yet. "No pressure," Robert added with a grin, "but we're not getting any younger." After they hung up, Marcus wrapped his arms around Elena from behind as she finished preparing their meal. "Grandchildren, huh?" he murmured against her ear. "One thing at a time," Elena said, leaning back against his chest. "First Puerto Rico, then we can talk about expanding our family." "I love how you say, 'our family,' like it's already decided." Elena turned in his arms. "Isn't it?" "Marcus Wellington, are you telling me you haven't thought about what our children would look like? Whether they'd have your eyes or my stubborn streak?" Marcus kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips. "I think about it every day. I think about teaching them to be kind and brave and authentic. I think about watching you be an amazing mother. I think about the bedtime stories you'll tell them in Spanish and English. And I think about watching you discover that being a father is what you were always meant to be," Elena said softly. Later that night, as they lay in bed talking about their plans for Puerto Rico, Elena traced patterns on Marcus's chest in the darkness. "Marcus, do you remember what you said to me that first night at your parents' house? About seeing who you could be with the right person?" "I remember. You've become that person and so much more. You've become someone I never could have imagined when we first met. Someone who leads with his heart, who isn't afraid to be vulnerable, who uses his privilege to lift others up." Marcus caught her hand and brought it to his lips. "You did that. You showed me who I could be." "We did that together," Elena corrected. "We saved each other, Marcus. You gave me back my faith in love, and I gave you permission to be yourself." As Elena drifted off to sleep in Marcus's arms, she thought about the girl she'd been 3 years after her accident. Angry, isolated, and convinced that love was something that happened to other people. She could never have imagined that a desperate rich man's ridiculous proposal would lead to the most authentic, beautiful love of her life. And Marcus, holding his wife close as the sounds of Brooklyn settled into nighttime quiet around them, marveled at the journey that had brought them here. He'd thought he was hiring someone to help him avoid his parents' matchmaking, but instead he'd found his soulmate. Their love story had begun with deception, but it had become the most honest thing in either of their lives. It was proof that sometimes the most beautiful truths can emerge from the most unlikely circumstances, and that real love, the kind that changes you from the inside out, is always worth the risk. In the morning, they would start planning their move to Puerto Rico, taking their foundation's mission to help families to the island where Elena's own family story had begun. But tonight, they were simply Marcus and Elena Wellington, two people who had found their way to each other through a maze of pretense and performance, and discovered that the most beautiful performance of all was simply being authentically, genuinely, completely themselves.